Hey friends, Ashley here. Okay, so normally when we're running a nutrition group like this, I would be doing a basic meal planning tips and tricks to utilize throughout the coming whatever, like week, and throughout the next few weeks of this challenge. But because we are in a unique season, thank you, Rona, we are going to be specifically talking about tips and tricks to help you to save money and to save time and to be healthy during this COVID-19 crisis meal planning. So to give you kind of a background, typically what I talk about is talking to your spouse about like, what do we have going on this week? Do we have baseball practice? Do you work late? Do you do whatever? But now that our schedules are basically the same every single day, it's like Groundhog's Day, right? That's going to be adjusted in this particular video. And we're going to be talking about, instead of necessarily shopping seasonally to cut down on costs, we'll be looking at other ways to cut down on cost as certain food products are rising during this particular season of crisis meal planning. So here we go. Without further ado, I'm going to give you a couple of things that will help, a couple of tips that will help with this crisis meal planning. Some of them are going to be similar to what we would do normally, and some of them are going to be a little bit different. So the first thing I'm going to suggest that you do is to create a plan, because oftentimes, especially right now, we are in lockdown. So we are not supposed to be going to the store for 2 weeks. We should be meal prepping for 2 weeks at a time, so expect a little bit larger bill. And so, but part of that, right, is that with that larger bill, you don't necessarily you don't think about like certain products are going to be more expensive. So here's some suggestions for you to cut down on costs during that 2-week quarantine meal planning. So the first thing that I would make sure that we're doing is we're looking at how much eggs we are going to buy. Yes, for those of you who are not vegan, eggs are typically a substantial part of someone's diet. Usually you use it, like, at least in our house, we eat eggs twice a week, sometimes more. And we also have beef, with ground beef, with tacos, or spaghetti. So, but those are the two products that we're seeing are rising a lot in cost right now. It's going up 200, 300%. So in order to reduce the amount of money that we're spending during this COVID-19 crisis, I suggest that you try and decrease the amount of eggs and beef that you are purchasing. Poultry is starting to regulate a little bit more. So if you're someone who's not vegan or vegetarian and you want to purchase some chicken, feel free to do so, because that is starting to regulate in price. But I would suggest looking at other alternatives for egg-based products. So I wouldn't suggest having eggs every single day. I suggest, for those of us who are working out in the morning, especially, we're having shakes, maybe having oatmeal, or you can make muffins without eggs if you replace that with applesauce. It's also a healthier alternative to add a little bit more fruit to that particular muffin. And you can find a lot of these things on Google or on Pinterest. You can find different muffin recipes that only use applesauce. And they taste pretty good. My kids like them a lot, actually. And the other thing I suggest is, instead of having ground beef with tacos, you could try shredded Fiesta chicken, which basically you just take chicken, throw it in a crock pot, put in some like mild salsa, and let it cook on low for like 4 hours. So it's super, super, super easy. And then you just shred it. Or you can do what we do on Taco Tuesday, which is, if you've seen my Instagram, it's every single Tuesday, is we just take beans and we use that as beans and cheese and a bunch of veggies for our taco salads for us as parents. And then for tacos for our kids, we just have beans and cheese. I would suggest utilizing beans as best you can. They're a cheaper alternative, as well as they're great higher in protein. I would just make sure that you're looking to have BPA free, and looking at as organic as you possibly can. It's not always going to be available, but if you can, that's always a great alternative. Something else that I suggest, bread is also increasing in price. So I'd suggest buying bread, instead of leaving it on the counter, to go ahead and just throw it in the freezer and only pull out the exact pieces that you will be using in that particular meal. It also prevents you from binging on that food, right? Because I don't know about you, but toast and bread in general is a comfort food to me in times of crisis. So in order to prevent that from going out of control, we throw it in the freezer and we just pull out a few pieces at a time to mitigate the constant carb overload. So those are the things I would suggest to cut down costs when you are meal planning. Is again to think about decreasing your eggs, think about decreasing your beef, and think about decreasing the amount of bread products that you utilize. But the other part about that is that these carbs, right, they help, they're comfort food, right? So I wanted to give you a couple of alternatives for snacks that kind of give you that crunch and that carb-like texture without going overboard. So while we might have a smoothie for breakfast or oatmeal, because oatmeal is a higher quality carb, I suggest steel cut oats or applesauce muffins, and you might utilize, you have one or two muffins, again, everything's portioned. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the ultimate portion fix and the 2B mindset meal planning. But also to look at snacks such as sliced apples and celery. Now, I don't just suggest eating that just by itself because, well, that's great and that's healthy. That's not necessarily going to hit that comfort food that you're looking for. So I suggest portioning out 2 tablespoons of either almond butter or peanut butter and put that on top, and sprinkle on a little bit of either like shaved coconut or some raisins on there, and it feels indulgent without breaking the bank, and it's still a healthier alternative than going out and having like 4 pieces of raisin toast. Another option is a rice cake with a little bit of whipped cream cheese. It's, again, a lighter alternative, whipped cream cheese with fresh fruit on top. Again, make sure we're having 1, not 5, but 1, and thoroughly enjoy that. Another option would be popcorn. It gives you that nice crunch without all the calories that you might expect in another form of a carbohydrate that would be loaded with calories. The last option I'm going to suggest in terms of feeling like it's an indulgent treat is something called a loaded banana. So I learned this trick when I was in college, but you take a banana, a ripe banana, and then you cut it down the middle with the peel on, and you throw in some extra dark chocolate. Just stick it in, you have already stick a knife through the middle of the banana, and now you're putting dark chocolate in there. Close it back up, put it on the grill or in the oven, and put it in there for maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes until the chocolate is melted. Open it up and then have like that banana and dark chocolate treat. It tastes delicious. And it also feels like it's a complete indulgent treat without being too over the top. So we are cutting down on beef and eggs. We are choosing different options for snacks. For our kids who are constantly eating, right, I suggest having a prepping for success with a snack drawer that are all full of healthy alternatives. So for instance, like applesauce pouches that are lower in sugar, fig bars that are lower in sugar, the whole wheat Cheerios, the whole wheat crackers, dried fruit like raisins or craisins. I suggest having those available so if your kids say, I'm hungry, you aren't having to look in the fridge and go, oh, well, that does look good. That does look good. I'm not really that hungry, but I guess I'll have some. No, friends. Have stuff that's already pre-packaged, ready to go for your kids that they can grab that independence to grab those healthier alternative snacks at their level, and then go ahead and teach them that independence. 1, right, life skill. 2, it's a healthy alternative that you're okay with no matter what they have there. And 3, it prevents you from your brain going off and saying, I think that I'm bored. Maybe I should eat. So it's a triple whammy for that. Finally, I suggest, and you hear this in so many different meal planning suggestions and keeping your calories down and really being as healthy as possible, is to drink your water, okay? So I suggest drinking half your body weight in water of ounces a day. So for me, being super pregnant, that's nearly 100 ounces of water for me each day. If you're breastfeeding or pregnant, it's going to be more. You should be drinking more. And some other suggestions that, I mean, yes, you want to ideally drink just regular tap water or, you know, filtered water. But so a couple of things that I really find I enjoy each day that allows me to look forward to drinking this particular water is if I take sparkling water, I'm loving the strawberry bubbly. And then mixing in a splash of mint, just mint by itself, and just kind of taking a straw and getting that mint flavor in there. Or taking like a splash, maybe I'd say like, I don't know, a quarter cup maybe of lemonade or of limeade and throwing that in with the sparkling water. It tastes really indulgent and fancy, and it still allows you to kind of keep up your water intake throughout the day. So those have been super helpful for me as well to keep my water intake up. And the final tip I'm going to suggest to you guys is to go by a schedule. Oftentimes when we are in a time like this, when it's crisis mode, we want something to comfort ourselves. We are not on our normal schedule, like, you know what I mean? Things are just off. We typically will literally pass the day by eating, right? Eating, go back to the couch. Eating, go back to going to work. Eating, go do this. I strongly suggest having exercise in your daily routine and activity. So like that's a walk around the block or going outside for a little bit or calling a friend, having a normal activities to have you moving. But then also throughout your day to have a schedule, like I wake up at this time to my alarm, I do my workout, I have my shake, I start homeschooling, I do a little snack for the kids and myself. We go outside for an hour and we go play for a while. We come back in, we do lunch, but then we have more activities during nap time with my toddler, or I'm doing some work. We have a light afternoon snack. Again, we are planning for these things. It's not, what should we do? But we are planning these, intentionally choosing the meals and the snacks that we're eating. And then for dinner, we also have this planned activity. But again, throughout the day, you are either working, you are actively engaging with your kids, or you're taking a decompression break and going outside if you can, because that's going to help raise that vitamin D, raise those feel-good endorphins to feel like yourself again. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. A few tips on how to meal plan during this COVID-19 crisis. Be prepared because there will be another Zoom call tomorrow around 11 a.m. Eastern time to talk about To Be Mindset. And then again on Saturday, same time, to talk about Ultimate Portion Fix. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.